This is 2 Minutes About Time with Luke Allen and Robert E.G. Black, the podcast that takes a look at the film About Time 2 minutes at a time. I am Richard Curtis, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you don't, well, you can just travel back in time 2 minutes and listen to something else.
I'm one of your hosts, Luke Allen. I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Robert E.G. Black.
Hello.
And we're joined today with special guest Ewen.
Hi guys, hello.
So to any of the listeners who don't know who you are you able to briefly introduce yourself to them?
Yeah, I'm an actor, and I've done a bit of writing and done a lot of TV comedies over the years. Best known probably for playing Keith in the UK version of The Office.
And I really like your little short tag in Life's Too Short as well, which is brilliant.
That's right, yeah, that was a little bit of fun at the end of an episode. Bit of a throwback, bit of a callback, yeah, to The Office character.
I mean, Robert, did Life's Too Short make its way into the States? Because I feel like it was one of Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant's things that just hardly anyone knows about.
I know I've heard of it, but I've never seen it, so maybe it didn't come over here really.
It feels very different to the other stuff, and I mean, I don't like it as much, but considering the standard they set with everything else, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's
yeah, it was a little bit bitty. It was a little bit bitty. It didn't quite hang together.
But yeah, I mean, I liked the end special that they did. That was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first series, it was alright, but it's not one I rewatch as much as The Office or Extras or things like that.
Yeah.
So, you said before recording that this is your first experience with the film About Time.
It is. It's, I'll tell you this, I basically, after I watched Notting Hill, I said to myself, I'm never ever going to watch another Richard Curtis film again. And I've stuck to it. I have never seen a Richard Curtis film since Notting Hill.
Well, as a massive Richard Curtis fan, I congratulate you, because he also has done a heck of a lot that you, I assume, had to avoid what many would consider some pretty good films, but I assume you would not.
I would probably not. I would say, I'm trying to think of the films I've missed. They're obviously big hitters.
I mean, Yesterday came out last year. That was quite
yeah.
Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. What else was there?
Well,
I mean,
yeah. I've missed The Boat That Rocked. I missed that.
Yeah.
I missed Love Actually. I've seen clips of some of these films because you can't avoid seeing clips. But yeah, and I missed About Time.
Yeah, for me, I get people's problems with the films, but also they feel almost like a warm hug to me. Also,
well, that sums it up. Sums it up. You know, they're like, it's like sponsored by Clinton's cards, you know, it's all just, aphorisms and platitudes to me. It's kind of, what's interesting is, haven't seen those little clips from About Time. And I knew, do you know what I thought? He's going to do this. I thought to myself, ages and ages ago, I thought, I bet he starts trying to copy Wes Anderson. And just from looking at those little clips, I think he has. I think Wes Anderson has a big influence on him. And I think he's trying to go down that route. He came up to me at a party and he went, he was a massive fan of The Office, which is fair play. He came up to me at a party and he went, Keith. And I said, hello. I'm a Richard Curtis fan, you know, I love Blackadder. I think Blackadder's an absolute work of genius. And I went, hello, and he went, you're Keith like that. And I went, yeah, I play Keith. I thought, you know, you expect somebody in the industry to sort of
call you by your first name?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not go down that route, but, and he was very nice to me and we had a little chat. And I said, oh, you know, hey, feel free to use me. And he went, oh, definitely use you. Yeah, no worries, mate. Don't worry. And, but that was the last time I ever heard from him or saw him. But it was,
it'd be great if this podcast clicks it back into place, and next thing we know, you're the lead man in the next hit rom-com.
I think I've burnt those bridges, but I'm listen, no one likes Blackadder more than I do. He's obviously very good at that
Blackadder,
style.
Mr. Bean, Vicar of Dibley, they're just genius. But I do get people's problems and why people don't like these rom-coms. I think they are still an acquired taste. And I mean, I've been laughed at several times on local radio when I've referred to About Time as my favourite film.
Yeah.
Because quite rightly,
as
hoping to establish myself as a filmmaker. Oh, and everyone's, chatting about Kielowski and all these other things. And I'm like, yeah, they're good, but my favourite film is About Time. Like, I don't know, I know it's weird, but also part of it, I've always felt that in these events, often people are lying when they're listing all these obscure foreign films as like all the stuff they love. It's like sometimes they're right, I'm sure. But
let me ask you because I used to watch films absolutely loads and loads of films, and I'm not a massive fan of the rom-com genre, but I am a fan of ensemble comedies and so on. Yeah. Have you seen any Wes Anderson films?
I've seen 2, I think. I've been meaning to watch others. I've seen Grand Budapest Hotel, and I forgot what the other one was that I saw. It begins. Rushmore.
Okay. Yeah. Have you seen any Todd Solondz films?
I'm gonna have to double check. It's an
I don't think Luke would like him.
And what about Robert? I tell you, if you want to see what Richard Curtis should be making, go and see some of the films Robert Altman made in the 90s, like The Player and Shortcuts. They're incredible. Robert Altman, you'd love Robert Altman films.
I'm gonna have a look now, because once again, these are names that I've heard, and have I seen them? These are a lot of his films I was listening to be films that I know exist and have been meaning to watch and haven't. So yeah, I'll definitely seek some of them out. And it's great to have this perspective on here as well, as you being someone who's not a fan of the rom-com, because most people who come on talk about their appreciation, which is good because it's just a view I've been waiting to have from someone. So, I mean, do you know much about the plot of About Time or anything like that, or is this just completely fresh?
I know it's about time travel.
There we go. You're better than one of the guests we've had on who didn't know anything about the film. He was getting a bit confused as to what was happening when he didn't know that it was a time travel movie. That's one
But
thing.
I don't think there was much time travel in any of the clips that I got sent.
No, I don't think so.
They all seem to be at a wedding.
Yeah, this latter part of the film, there isn't that much time travel as he, starts appreciating life more. Yeah. But he does go back to do things. He doesn't say that until even later in the film, but yeah. There's a lot more bits of time travel early on in the film when we've got Margot Robbie playing Charlotte and him continually going back in time to impress her over and over again. But this is, we don't get as much here. But this, within the context of the film, this minute that we're looking at first, minute 71, and a hint of last week when we looked at minute 70, I unashamedly say that several times I've watched this, I tear up when that music starts playing. Like, I know it's probably quite over the top. I mean, obviously you need the context of the rest of the film. I think it might have been in the bonus minute we sent you as to how, like, he wants Il Mondo playing and she didn't want it at her wedding. So when it starts playing, there's just something so...
You see, in my head, when Richard Curtis is writing the script, he's writing in the margin, people should start crying at this point. That's how cynical I reckon he is as a
writer. Maybe. I don't know. Richard, if you're listening, email us. Let us know.
Richard, did you write in the margin, surging music should cause people to start crying at this moment? It's a talent to have, pulling the heartstrings, it's a talent.
He manages it quite a lot.
Yeah, he knows where the beats are in a film. He knows where the beats are. I have seen Notting Hill and Four Weddings. I've seen a couple of his stuff, so I know what he's doing.
Have you seen his episode of Doctor Who?
No, I'm not really a Who. I was a Who fan as a kid in the late 70s, 80s, but I'm not really into the new ones. They were sanitized for me.
That's fair enough. He did one episode of Doctor Who with Vincent van Gogh.
Okay.
And it was just amazing because it ended up, it was dealing with, this isn't much of a spoiler to listen to, you're listening really, it's a standalone episode, dealing with Van Gogh's depression, and it was all about Van Gogh being attacked by like an invisible monster that only he could see, which I think was just powerful in itself. But then there's this wonderful scene where they think they can cure his depression by taking him forward in time to see how much he's loved. And you see his reactions to all of these things, but then they go back to the museum after they've dropped him back off, and they're like, there'll be tons of new paintings from Van Gogh. And there's nothing because it's not that simple. And it's just, for what's essentially a kid's show, it was just like really well done.
Yeah. I'm aware of that message that you have with time travel film a lot. It's like Back to the Future where his picture starts fading because he's managed to write himself out of history by changing it.
There's a later version similar to that later on in this film, which, I mean, as you said, you're not going to watch any other Richard Curtis films. I guess, have we got your permission to spoil it for you?
Absolutely. Go,
Okay.
100%.
So there's a plot later on where they've got a child, and he goes back in time to a moment before the conception of the child. So the child then changes from a girl to a boy, because it was that specific sperm at that specific moment, and so if he changes anything before the conception, then everything messes up. So yeah, that's one of the odd things. And I mean, now, even before we open the dialogue for this minute, Il Mondo playing, Richard Curtis has got a big story on this. He'd been meaning to use Il Mondo in something for ages, as when he was on holiday to Elba, he used to go to a cafe where there was a jukebox at the same time as Il Mondo was number one in the charts in Italy. And he used to always go down there, play Il Mondo and eat lemon sorbet. And then he bought 3 copies of the album, or of the single, and he tried to fit it in. He wrote an entire sitcom and sent it to the BBC called Yes Minestrone, just to see whether he could use Il Mondo as the theme song. And he'd been trying to put it in his work for years, and at this point he finally did it. And then Jimmy Fontana, who wrote and sang Il Mondo, died shortly after the film came out, but Richard Curtis was asked to give a quote for an obituary. And I haven't actually checked to see whether I can find that quote, but yeah. I love this music, mostly because of the film, but I think it is a great song. It's amazing
how films do that. Films can make you look at a piece of music the way you never felt before. It happens a lot. You know, I did with Donnie Darko with the old Tears for Fears song they use in that, which kind of, now you hear the song, even though I'd heard the song for years. Now when I hear the song, all I can think of is the film, you know, because they used it so well.
Yeah, I can't think of any specific examples myself, but I know that there have definitely been occasions with that. I mean, I guess with Love Actually and All You Need Is Love, like that was quite powerful. He then did the exact same thing in Yesterday, and I didn't actually mind that, but it's...
What, you did the same, what, Richard Curtis did something formulaic? That's unheard of.
But I guess, to fit within the canon of the universe, Yesterday was set in a new universe where the Beatles didn't exist, so thus in the universe of Yesterday, Love Actually didn't feature that song, so he could get away with doing it again. I don't know. Yesterday I really enjoyed as a film. Like, I recommend, I mean, even if you just watch it as a Danny Boyle directed film rather than as a Richard Curtis written film.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's a good thing, but it's almost similar to About Time in the way that it doesn't want you to get stuck up in figuring out the rules of, the rules of this being the rules of time travel, or Yesterday being how on earth he got into that situation. It's more, here's a situation we're in, here's how we're going to tell a story with it, which some people like, some people don't. But I think, I don't mind the idea of not getting too stuck up with the rules of it all, because About Time could fall to pieces if you start analysing the rules of time travel, but then what's the point of doing that when the film's all about sentiment and love and family?
Absolutely. Well, there you go. Absolutely.
So, the opening of this is we've got the music playing as Mary walks down the aisle, and so the translation of the song, I'm not about to try and read it out in Italian because that'd probably be offensive. The translation of the song is, and the world revolved around me as always, spin the world spin, in the endless space with newborn loves, with loves already over, with joy and pain, people like me, oh world, only now do I look at you. In your silence I get lost, and I'm nothing next to you. And I'll go to the rest later on. It's actually quite interesting that, so Robert, the translation that you got for this, I assume you just literally translating the lyrics yourself on Google Translate, is very different to the actual English version of the song that's available.
Well, they probably have to change it to get, like, rhymes going.
Yeah. It just feels like a completely different song. I hadn't even translated the lyrics before, but yeah, it's good. Both versions, really. And, I mean, once again, obviously, you need like the setup as to the music and everything, and the love between the music, between him and his dad. But I think you get a little bit of this with, his shock at it and Mary saying that it's for you, and then his dad's dancing.
So is his dad sort of dead or something? I mean, what's the deal there?
Not yet. But later, yeah.
I thought maybe his dad was dead but he came back because of the time travel or something. I don't know. I wasn't sure. You're never sure with Bill Nighy. He just tends to float through things, and you're not sure if he's how real he is.
But yeah, I mean, with this, I mean, the rules of time travel in this universe, as simply as possible, is basically he can go back in time to any point in his own life, but only if he remembers it. And that's done by going into a dark room, closing his eyes and clenching his fists and thinking of the moment he goes back to. And all the men in his family can do that. So later on in the film, when his dad does die, he can go back in time to see his dad after his dad's death. Right. Until his wife says that they want a new baby, and then he can't go back before that conception of that child. So it's literally have a child or kill your father. That is the decision he has to make.
Right, I'm guessing he kills his father.
He does, yeah.
yeah.
It does make for some wonderfully sentimental moments, but once again, it sort of depends whether you're the person who gets so emotional about these sentimental moments as...
Wouldn't it have been amazing if he'd chosen not to have a kid and just have his father live forever? That would have been brilliant.
Yeah, and I'd imagine that the number of times he'd go back to see his dad would mean that his dad's life would have ended up being completely different. Like, his dad's life will end up just being full of occasions of him meeting his dad. And all the things his dad would have done.
It would give his dad time to go and do stuff like having a Christmas #1 single and things like that. Very good.
I mean, incidentally, this is considering how Bill Nighy is normally in films, or at least a lot of the films I've seen, there are some where he's quite like this. But, I mean, Bill Nighy said when he took this role, he'll do it if he didn't have to act. And so he decided to play this.
That a lot.
So he decided to play this as he just would be in these situations. So he seems quite different to how he is as Billy Mack in Love Actually, or how he is in, quite similar to how he is in The Girl in the Cafe, but different to how he is in The Boat That Rocked, different to how he is in Shaun of the Dead. You know, it's Bill Nighy playing a likeable character, which is quite fresh.
Yeah, he is good at the nasty as well, Bill. Yeah, very good.
So it did surprise me when I saw this for the first time, where I was like, okay, Bill Nighy's character's dead, and I'm feeling really sad about it, because that's not what I expect going into a Bill Nighy movie.
Yeah.
So then, after the wedding, we get the torrential rain, unless Robert has any comment on visuals for the wedding, particularly.
No. I just point out the outside of the church is Port Lowe United Church, which is 14 miles from their house, but I don't think they walked that far.
Yeah,
did you not feel the colour scheme was a bit Wes Anderson-y? Is that just me? Am I reading too much into it?
The colour scheme
similar. I don't know if it comes from Wes Anderson.
No, okay.
Definitely, this movie definitely uses color in a similar way to Anderson.
Well, pastels and things in it. So, yeah.
Well, if you'd seen scenes where they're like inside their house, Tim often blends in with the walls.
Right,
And it feels very deliberate, like he's kind of invisible when he's at home.
Yeah, because the outsiders to the family.
Mary's red dress here is like the first time someone's worn red in this movie. And so it makes her stand out from the family and from everyone else.
Yeah.
Incidentally, apart from her jumper in the previous scene, which is odd. But yeah, it's the red dress is an interesting choice.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it. And I think it makes this scene a lot more memorable. Because it separates. I guess it stops you from getting it mixed up with other weddings in other films, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Richard Curtis.
And then she like kind of dances down the aisle, and it gets you some nice visuals you'll remember.
I guess one of the other questions.
And then the rain makes it even better.
I guess one of the other questions, Ewan, is have you seen any other Rachel McAdams time travel movies?
Yeah, no, I haven't. There's another one, isn't there?
There's two others. There's Time Traveler's Wife and Midnight.
Time Traveler's Wife, yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, I haven't seen that. You could
also slightly count as a half Doctor Strange, although he doesn't time travel in Doctor Strange. But basically she's always played someone who knows someone who's travelling in time and has never played the time traveller. So Robert, I think what I need to do is I need to write a script which just involves a brief cameo of Rachel McAdams travelling in time and see whether she'll take the role, whether she'll fly for free to Shropshire, turn up, do one scene and leave, just so you can tick that box on her CV.
Or just make her the next Doctor Who, you know.
That's what I said.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, and she'd be good. I think.
Yeah, I'm sure she would, yeah.
If we were gonna get an American Doctor, it should be Rachel McAdams.
Who knows? Maybe you heard it here first, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've gone on record as saying I'm not a big fan of Jodie's Doctor. I'm not against a woman Doctor, I'm just not a fan of Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. I think she's a good actress. I think Chris Chibnall can be a good writer, but I think somehow they're both just not good in the end result.
At university, I did a Doctor Who play, and we actually had a female Doctor years before anyone else did.
Was this before the Comic Relief sketch with Joanna Lumley?
This would have been in about the early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Possibly just before, yeah. Good work.
Yeah. And our female Doctor now works for NASA. So there you go.
Nice.
Maybe she will eventually be the real equivalent.
She was the first person, she went to study AI in America, and she was the first person, as part of her PhD, to invent a computer that could tell a joke.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you go.
That is not the way I expected that anecdote to go. That is brilliant. So yeah, I mean, I love this whole scene of the rain and the wedding. And did either of you get the chance to watch the video I sent over about how this was done?
Yeah, about people getting the fire hoses in their faces and stuff like that. Yeah.
I guess it's an element that I hadn't really thought about too much. Like, which is kind of weird because normally when I watch films, I tend to think so in depth as to how everything's done. You know, I'll sit and watch a film and I'll often not be focused on the plot because I'm picturing the screenplay in my head or I'm imagining what the sets are like and all these other things. And for some reason, like, I don't know, that like rain and storms are things that I've never really thought about. So to see how much effort had to go into this, it's just
rain is a nightmare. Weather is a nightmare when you're filming. Rain is always a problem because actual rain doesn't register on camera. Yeah, so if you're filming and it's raining, it doesn't register, but it does make people wet. So it's an absolute nightmare if you want a scene with rain. What you've got to do is you've got to actually get weather machines in that actually register the rain on camera. So yeah, rain is always an interesting one.
Yeah, having filmed with rain in one of my shorts last year, it was quite annoying. Little glimpses managed to get picked up on camera, thankfully.
Yeah.
Like, we thought we were going to be safe because we were like, okay, we found shelter, we'll just film the actors over there. They weren't getting wet. But the noise of the rain was just... I mean, I think it turned out okay in the end of it, suited the atmosphere once again. A zero budget film from a 16-year-old. People don't expect weather machines. And we would have waited for it to pass if it wasn't our lead actress's 21st birthday.
Bad timing, you see. Bad planning.
Yeah. I mean, I was still surprised that she came and did the film on her 21st birthday. That was good work. But yeah. So, the rain's pouring. We've got little snippets of dialogue like, now I'm caught, I've got it, help me, and other glimpses. I mean, I don't think there's even much point me reading all of this dialogue, we hardly hear it.
It's funny because I'm I'm staying with my parents, during lockdown, and, the other night for some reason, they decided, just out of the blue, they were going to watch, Four Weddings and a Funeral again. And, I was watching something else on my laptop, but I was aware of it. And, a lot similar, they have a very famous scene in the rain as well. And there's a very famous scene at a wedding as well. So it's interesting how the tropes,
a wedding.
Yeah. It's amazing how these tropes kind of, keep coming back, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing is Richard Curtis has been like one of the only rom-com filmmakers who doesn't end the film at the wedding necessarily. Like he's one of those who you have the wedding and then the film carries on.
Yeah.
Which is something fresh. I mean, I think in general the whole format of About Time is quite fresh. In the fact that the whole film these scenes are so short because they're almost just like memories. Tim narrates the film and he's telling us almost the story of his past 9 years. And so, you know, some of these scenes are longer, some of them are shorter, little glimpses of things, and often we'll think, hang on, you know, why is this so short? So like he spent a summer with Margot Robbie and we get it in like a 5-minute montage, then it's like, oh yeah, well 9 years later you'd only remember it as, you know, a brief flash of a couple of things you remember and then carry on. So whether that's intentional in the writing or whether we're giving him more credit, who knows, but I appreciate it as the format. And the good thing is saying that it's him narrating the story and that he could be an unreliable narrator covers up any plot holes with the film entirely.
Well, you know, time travel is a nightmare to write. I don't think there's ever been a perfect time travel film because just by the very nature of it, it leaves loopholes lying around. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Timecrimes does a good job.
Okay.
It's Timecrimes, I think it's a Spanish film where
I think I've seen that.
He goes through a time loop like 3 times, and at one point he realizes
Yeah.
He's the person he saw before, so he just puts on the mask. He's like, okay, I have to do what I saw me do.
That's quite recent, isn't it? I think I saw that, yeah.
It's like a decade ago, maybe.
Yeah.
I'll add that to list of things to watch. This is good. I feel like I'm just, like, I was, to my friends, I'm the film guy, and then I host this show with Robert, and he just names all these films I've never heard of, and it just, drops it completely. But I guess, I'm like one of the few people in like the film study community per se, or at least, like, say in film study classes or among the film people, as I said before, who likes rom-coms this much. And I don't know why. As I said, I mean, I know that this feels like, Richard Curtis specifically feels like a warm hug, but I don't know about the other rom-coms. Some of them I don't like. Some of them are so bad, but I think at least quite often they're things you can sit down and turn your brain off.
Yeah, there used to be a good director in the 80s called John Hughes.
Yeah.
Who used to do great rom-coms. With a slight edge. Used to do things like Pretty in Pink and The Breakfast Club.
The only problem I've got with Pretty in Pink is that he basically remade it with Same Kind of Wonderful. Like,
yeah, well,
I prefer Same Kind of Wonderful as well, which I think isn't. I'm glad that you agree with me, Robert, because a lot of people haven't. But I think I think Same Kind of Wonderful is the better one, but I know I watched that first. Which incidentally was originally going to be about a child spy, and then slowly ended up being a gender swapped Pretty in Pink.
Yeah.
But yeah. I guess that does make sense, and it's good. Glad that you made that comparison, because Richard Curtis and John Hughes are both two people I look up to, because like the comedy that John Hughes does as well, with like National Lampoon's Vacation and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
Oh, John Hughes was just amazing, Some of the stuff he did, some of the stuff he created, some of the greatest comedy, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, Ferris Bueller, The Breakfast Club, just some of the best comedies there have been, really. He was just a genius.
I think the thing is that because of how close he ended up being to John Candy, that I think the decline in the quality of John Hughes films can almost be put straight to the moment that John Candy passed away. Like, because John Candy passed away, and then, years later you slowly get more of the kids' films that he did that don't go down as well. Stuff like, I mean, they're fine. Baby's Day Out, Flubber, Home Alone 3.
Yeah, well, he stopped directing though, didn't he? He stopped directing them. So he was a weird one, because he was a prolific writer, but he only actually directed a handful of the films. So even though a lot of them you think of as John Hughes films, it was more that he was the writer or the producer.
Yeah.
But I think after pretty much after the 80s, he almost stopped directing stuff.
Yeah, and even writing. Like, I know he wanted to see whether a film could still be good if he wrote it, but they didn't know he wrote it. So with Beethoven, he went to Edmond Dante, and I don't know when people found out it was John Hughes, but I think at least the first Beethoven film, maybe the second.
I think I just found that out when you just said it. I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
There you go. Wow.
I'm not surprised, but I didn't know that.
But I think a lot of people would just have not bothered watching Beethoven because they thought it was a kid's film and not a mature comedy,
Yeah.
I don't remember it. I know I've seen it, but I don't remember it. And I think what I see, he only wrote the first one. Other than like character credits, obviously, for the stuff, but I'm definitely going to give it another watch at some point. And as far as I remember, I quite liked Baby's Day Out, but I haven't seen that in years either. So I think, I think both Richard Curtis and John Hughes less, but still quite a bit with some of his films, are enough for switch off your brain films. I mean, especially some of I think that the greatest of John Hughes' teen movies is 16 Candles, and a lot of people seem to forget that exists.
Yeah.
I love 16 Candles. But I mean, I think there's definitely a lot that they have in common. And I guess to an extent, Pretty in Pink and Bridget Jones's Diary go down similar routes.
Yeah. Definitely there's links, yeah.
Only Bridget Jones was based on the book, but it's still, I'd imagine there are the influences there in terms of, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of films about two men fighting over a woman, but the two character types, one being the old family friend and the other being...
That goes back to, like, the book Emma, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As well.
Possibly.
Which Bill Nighy's in the latest movie of, so hey, circle back.
Which on the day of recording came out on DVD today, apparently, so... I need to get hold of it because I missed that.
It's Bill Nye not acting again, but dressed in old-timey clothes.
I'm not normally one for, like, historicals that much, but often when they are comedy, as Emma is,
Emma's a comedy.
I tend to prefer them. There's a few historicals I like, but for the most part, I don't know. I think they have to be really good for me to enjoy a historical. What was the one that I watched recently? I know it's probably about a good few years old now. I watched Dangerous Method recently with Keira Knightley. I really enjoyed that one. Just because her performance in that is incredible.
I'll tell you what, actually, thinking about it, I just had a little look back on my like film notes I keep. There is actually a Richard Curtis written rom-com that I absolutely love, and I've forgotten about it.
Which one?
The Tall Guy.
I knew you were going to say that one, because that's the one everyone forgets.
The Tall Guy, what a film that was. Wow.
I only watched it recently, so I've only seen it once, but I really liked it. It's
great.
very different to other Richard Curtis stuff.
Absolutely,
It's a lot more absurdist. I mean, it's more like his Blackadder and Mr. Bean and all that side of things, rather than this. I mean, I think even just the sex scene in The Tall Guy is an example of how over the top.
The absurdity of it as well, the whole kind of the musical of the Elephant Man and everything is just fantastic.
Yeah, and that takes up quite a lot of the film, that musical, and it's really good. So yes,
great.
Robert, I guess the question is whether we go on to a Tall Guy minute after About Time.
I'd have to watch it again.
I'd be back.
I haven't seen The Tall Guy since the 80s, so I don't know.
What if you just remained having not seen it and you just watch it a minute at a time each week?
That would be fun.
Yeah. That'd be frustrating.
Yeah.
Depends
how long lockdown lasts, I guess. Because I'm surprised how quickly you've got through this. It also depends whether my family want me back, because I spend like 2 or 3 evenings every week here.
If lockdown's still going in 2 years, then maybe.
I mean, I talked with one of my friends about doing Finding Nemo a minute at a time. Very different film, but probably would lend itself quite well to Movie by Minute, I'd imagine. Anyway, About Time. So, they're sort of running about in the rain. We're still on 72. The lyrics continue to, the world, it never stopped for a moment. Are we on 70? Why am I on 70? We're on 71. Why have I got 72 open? Never mind. The world never stopped for a moment. The night always chases the day. And, I mean, Robert, you as a visuals person, just over all of 71, you've got the marquee splitting and all of that stuff, like, where do you go with the visuals on this? What's your opinion?
They're fine. I mean, one thing I noticed is there's a lot of camera setups for a scene that's going to involve rain.
Yeah.
Because they did a lot of different shots of the crowd, different combinations of people. The one meaningful visual is that, Jay has a purple tie, which will matter later.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
purple tie.
Well, since we can spoil things for you, he will be set up later with Tim's sister, whose color is purple. Everything she wears is purple.
Yeah.
So that he's wearing purple in this scene, their first scene together. They were both at the party, but they weren't really seen.
Yeah, it's good. So apparently Donal and Rachel carefully missed the marquee scene. They didn't notice that Richard Curtis didn't notice that they were both avoiding it, and then I think in the end he decided, just ruin their outfits a bit too much for them to stay under there. I believe that Richard Curtis's sons can be spotted among that crowd, but I don't know which ones they are.
There's 2 little boys that you see really well at the under the tent later, so I assume that's them.
I don't actually know the age of his sons. I know that one of his sons comes back later on. Charlie Curtis comes back later on. We see his daughter in one of the next minutes in a very interesting idea for a cameo for his daughter, and we'll talk about that when that comes up.
She's not the girl, is she?
She's number 8.
Oh, okay.
She's full penetrative.
She's the other one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He does love slipping in those kind of inappropriate wedding moments, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think he does it in 4 weddings a couple of times as well.
Yeah. Actually, you do get a little bit of time travel this week, do we? Or is it next week? It is this week.
It's not very obvious time travel. It's sound effect cut to a new guy talking.
Yeah, so it's the swapping of best man. So I guess we can just slide straight into minute 72, where it's still wet. I'm sorry, the marquee is 72, isn't it? It's not 71. That's my mistake. And the lyrics carry on to, and the day will come, the world. That's it, pretty much. There's not many other.
The lyrics come back, but it's just repeating.
Okay. You've got good notes for this minute, Robert. This is good levels of prep.
There's some nice shots in here. Even with people we don't know.
Yeah. And I like that we do see those people that we do know in here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's nice to see some of these characters. Like, we didn't really need to have Jimmy here or...
Right. At this point watching the movie, I don't think we'd even recognize Jimmy. We saw him in one scene, which was an hour ago. Yeah,
we've heard his name mentioned. He's then here.
Yeah, he's here the whole time.
It's good that he's consistent. Because, we didn't need him there. We didn't need Joanna there. And I mean, actually, we haven't asked you, Ewan, like, what do you get out of, like, the cast that are in this film? Were there any surprises with the people you saw in here?
Not massively. I was slightly surprised that there weren't maybe more people that I knew. There was, I guess there was Lindsay Duncan's in it, isn't there?
Yeah.
Bill Nighy. Good old Tom Hollander. I did a short film with Tom Hollander once.
Nice.
Many years ago. Well, I played somebody who had the hiccups, so.
Is he a nice guy to work with?
Yeah, he was very nice. Yeah, it was nice to work with. Yeah, it was.
He's just so unlikable in this film. It's just, I always forget.
Nice this minute.
Yeah, he is nice. He's unlikable in the way that you can still like him. Yeah. I guess in the same way as you could say, calling back to The Office, that David Brent is at times. You love to hate him.
I think again with Tom Hollander, he's very good at playing those sort of very weaselly, nasty, posh people.
Mm.
Where almost their poshness is what's offensive about them. He's done that in a couple of things, where he's very good at doing that, I think. But then he's very good at playing, he's obviously extremely likable in Rev, in the sitcom Rev, which is great as well.
I don't think I've seen that on YouTube.
Yeah, he's very good, yeah.
Because I am intrigued to see more things wherein Tom Hollander is likable. Because as Bill Nighy being quite likable in this was a surprise, like, it'd be interesting to add that with Tom Hollander and other stuff, because this was the main thing I know Tom Hollander from, just from how obsessed I've got with this film. But when I've seen him in other films, I instantly don't know whether we're supposed to like him or not, because I've already got all these things linked to his character from About Time to him. And you've also got Vanessa Kirby in these minutes, so I don't think you said anything.
Yeah, Rev's good. It's him with Olivia Colman playing his wife, so they're very good. They're very good together.
Why haven't I heard of it? This seems just like the sort of thing that
It was a sitcom. It ran for a few years, sort of early, started around 2010. I think it was BBC Two, but he co-wrote it as well. It was good. It was very good.
Oh, yeah, I do know actually. Yeah, I think I've seen clips, but I didn't know the name of the show.
Yeah, he plays a priest. He's the reverend. He plays a priest in a local church, having to deal with like his crazy parishioners and everything.
I guess is it? Oh, that sounds as a premise not too dissimilar to Vicar of Dibley, I guess. But...
Do you know what? It sounds the premise on the actual show does feel very Richard Curtis-ish. It is a very Richard Curtis-ish-esque, however you want to. I don't know. Is Richard Curtis worthy yet of an esque?
Probably, I'd say so.
Yeah. I'd say I would still give him a Richard Curtis-ish rather than a Richard Curtis-esque.
But yeah, I'll definitely give it a whirl. I'm always on the edge with shows about vicars, like being a Christian in a Christian family as well. Like, I don't know. I'm always on the edge for these things, but it seems
it's very non-offensive. It's not at all anti-Christian. That's probably good. the opposite of anything.
I'll probably order a DVD straight after recording because I need stuff to watch in lockdown. What was I watching recently? I can't remember. I've been watching a lot of stuff. I keep doing the starting a rewatch of a show and then giving up halfway through. Like I started rewatching series 1 of Community and then I'd like remember how well I know it and it's just not much point anymore. I'm like, I need to probably leave a pause between my rewatches because I'd literally only just finished rewatching Community before I decided to watch it again. Vicar of Dibley, incidentally, holds up to tons of rewatches. It's one of those which, it's almost the go-to show with my family when we've got nothing else to watch. We're having dinner in front of the telly and it's like, let's just go on to Netflix and watch Vicar of Dibley. Same with Outnumbered and those sort of British sitcoms you can just pop in.
Yeah,
pop
I know
out.
what you mean. Yeah.
So yeah, and then, I mean, is there much else at all to say about the Marquis and the Rain, or should we go?
I always look at things like that and wonder how many costume changes everyone had, because it's so difficult to get someone back looking the same after they've been soaking wet. A lot of the time, you get one take.
Yeah, it sounds like for outside, they didn't worry about that. They just started throwing water and wind at people and saw what happened.
But you can't, they like to make it sound like that, but technically, you just can't get away with it. I mean, having been in rain scenes and things like that, you need to look, if you have to look exactly the same 10 minutes later, it's really difficult.
If they planned for getting this done quickly, they could manage, because there's not a lot of, like, meaningful dialogue going on out here. So it's just like, film them getting, like, their photos taken, film them walking, film them with the tent collapsing. Done.
If they accept that as long as you've got them filmed getting wet for the first time, then after that, from that point on, you can just basically wing it.
Right.
Oh yeah, I think that's the best way of going about it. And I think at the end of the day, it's just more work for the editors if they do it badly. It'd just be, like, I think an editor could probably manage it, but it would just, take a lot of effort.
You need a lot of coverage. Or it's just editors nightmare, really.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's such a great thing. And actually, so all of minute 72 is just the rain as well, really. Yeah. So there's probably not too much else to say other than if we've got any final thoughts before we wrap up.
I'd make a couple notes. Like I mentioned, we get to see Harry being nice. He gives his umbrella to an older woman. And
but then he immediately sort of looks like he sort of did it grudgingly, doesn't he?
Well, right, but that's Harry as a character. He's always that angry. So even if he gives himself a reason to be, at least he did it by being nice to someone.
I thought he was just channeling the usual Tom Hollander energy.
We also see Desmond being normal.
Desmond with Kit Kat, just walking in the rain. Joanna at first is walking with a guy, and then she just goes up the hill on her own. Because he doesn't have an umbrella. And the dad has an umbrella, but doesn't use it. Like, he knows it's pointless.
Yeah. So yeah, I like that possibly, as you said, that she leaves that guy behind and walks off. I don't just get the impression that it's because of the rain. I feel like he's already done something to anger her, because she seems to always end up with the wrong guys and always get overly angry. Incidentally, apparently Vanessa Kirby had tried as hard as she could to persuade Richard Curtis for her to have had Rupert as her date for the wedding, which would have been brilliant.
I wonder, this wood sign that says party, I wonder if this is how they announce their New Year's party, and that's why it's a bunch of strangers that show up. They just put a sign outside.
Yeah, maybe. So have we got any concluding thoughts on these 2 minutes?
We know when they were filmed from the behind the scenes footage. 17th July 2012.
I think it's glitching. Yeah, sorry, carry on, Robert.
Otherwise, my mic seems to be catching it, so it's okay. Otherwise, no. It's a lot of shots of people pouring drinks. We see Jimmy pouring himself some champagne. It's fun.
It's good. So, Ewan, where can our listeners find you on social media?
At Ewen MacIntosh on Twitter. That's the best place to go for everything.
And Robert, where can the listeners find you?
LemmingDrops.com or social media, Robert E.G. Black.
And the listeners can find me on Twitter at the strange Twitter of llama_bottle0. They can find me on Instagram at the Ginger Luke, on Facebook at Luke Allen Film. All podcasts, short films, radio appearances, newspaper articles, anything I'm remotely involved in is available at lukeallen.co.uk. And this podcast is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 2 Mins About Time. And they can also join our Facebook group, The Cupboard, to discuss all things about time, tangents. You know, talk about whether you love or hate the film. Talk about whether you love or hate the guests. Talk about anything. And so today's goodbye is brought, as always, by this random article I found about interesting ways to say goodbye. And peace out, Girl Scout. Thought I'd bring back a rhyming one.
The 2 Minutes About Time theme is performed by Ethan O'Mahony and is a cover of the About Time theme, originally composed by Nick Laird-Close. 2 Minutes About Time is a production of Lemming Drop Studios in association with Bottle O Productions.